We've come a long way when sitting top of the league, 6 points clear, and getting a draw at home to the champions feels this bad. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Raw Reaction Show, the show where we discuss the night before, the game before, the evening before, and that is an Arsenal goalless draw against Liverpool. And this is going to be a bizarre show for me, because the reason why it's going to be a bizarre show for me is because there's so many different talking points and lines that are, if you look at on paper, you'd say, wow, that's mad. How did Arsenal do that? Look where Arsenal are. Look what Arsenal are doing. I'll give you an example of that. Liverpool failed to land a shot on target in a Premier League match for the first time since March 2010. Tonight was their 600th game in a competition since that fixture. And yet they were the better team. that's what's nuts, isn't it? How can that be true? How can that be the case? How could the team that didn't register a single shot on target for 600 games be the better team? It's mad, but it's happened, and that is the reality. It was a terrible performance. We have to be honest about this. There's going to be a lot of hard truths. If you're not ready for some hard truths, there's the door. All right, we're going to get into it. It's going to be an uncomfortable one, I think, today. But there's some things that we need to talk about. There's some things that we need to say, and it's not because I want to. I think you know me almost better than I know myself these days. I'm not one for negativity. I'm not one for being, critical. But there are times where you have to sit down and have an honest chat about a game. And I think we can all agree that yesterday's game was not good enough. So we need to talk about why, we need to talk about what, and we need to talk about how that doesn't happen again, while, of course, providing the broader context of where Arsenal are, which is in a really good position. So if you're ready for that, stick with me. If you're not, and as I always say, it's important that you look after your mental health, absolutely. And I know that these games and these seasons and this sport can be really taxing on you. I get that. I absolutely get that. So if you need to take time, need to take a day, take the day, and I'll catch you tomorrow, I'm sure. But look after yourselves. If you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. That would be greatly appreciated. We do these every single morning at 8 a.m. Usually it's a news show, but after the game, the morning after it is always a reaction to that previous game. And the majority of these shows have been pretty darn positive this season, unsurprisingly so, considering where Arsenal are. But today, it's not going to be one of them days. So just be ready for that. Good morning for all of you in the chat box. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Paul, Dave, we've got Knowledge in the chat. We've got Brian and Claire. We've got other Paul. We've got Steve. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Manny. We've got Black Shine. We've got Dave in the chat. Maria says, good morning, all. Disappointing performance last night, but we move forward. I feel embarrassed for the Instagrammers I see having hissy fits, calling it the worst performance they've ever seen. It's not the worst performance we've ever seen. It's one of the worst performances we've seen in recent times. But it's, I wouldn't go as far as saying it's the worst performance. I mean, when you limit Liverpool to 0 shots on target for the first time that's happened in 600 games, it's not going to be one of the worst performances ever. It was one of the most toothless displays, I think, that we've ever had. And one of the least composed displays for 60 minutes that we have ever had. But we'll talk about that. We're going to get into all of that. So, let's just say, I don't know why that says this. That is a big 3 points. You can tell that I haven't changed the wording. I actually did change the wording of that this morning, but clearly I didn't click over the slides. Hold on 2 seconds. I've already got it typed out. There you go. What on earth was that? It's actually what I wanted to say. It was just not what I was expecting in any way, shape, or form. I just wasn't expecting that performance. It really caught me off guard. It really did surprise me just how bad the game was. It just like it caught me off guard. Like when I didn't make the slides before the game, by the way. That wasn't what an amazing 3 points. That was the same slide from the Bournemouth game. Just I didn't change the the text. But yeah, my words. I wish I kind of wasn't working today in some ways, because I wish I could do like a 2-hour show and invite people on to kind of have a bit of a therapy session. And then usually I would do that, but I can't. I haven't got the time because I have work and I've got a lot of work to do today because there's a really quick turnaround for the weekend's fixtures. So apologies that I can't, but I will do my best to do that. Maybe tomorrow, potentially. I've got a day off, so maybe I'll do a phone-in show tomorrow and get some of your thoughts then. Just on things. I do like to get people on after disappointing results, not because it's great content. It is good content, but because I think it's the better time to do it because we can kind of have a therapy session together. So it's just going to be me. I'm just going to say that, yeah, just really gutting, really, really, really gutting performance, because it was such a big opportunity. It was such a big opportunity. That's what's gutting for me. That's what's so disappointing, is we could have been 8 points clear. And it's not just about that. It's not just about City and Villa dropping points. It's about no Salah. That's quite funny, isn't it? No Salah in the game. No Hugo Ekitike. No Alexander Isak. You know, big forward players missing for Liverpool. It was an opportunity. They're in bad form. This is their 3rd draw in a row. You know, even though they're 9 unbeaten, I think now in 12 or whatever it is, but from previously losing 9 of 12. It was just such a big opportunity and they were there for the taking. Dave says the last time we played Liverpool without Salah, we lost. Yeah, and it has happened before. You know, I'm not saying that when you play Liverpool without Salah, you just, you have to win, and Salah's not had a great season, but there's no doubt that it was a great opportunity. And yeah, I mean, Peter says the fact that they had no shots on goal is a clue. They only got better when they settled for a draw in the second half by overloading the midfield and controlling the game. And look, they had absolutely no intention of winning this game by being the better team. They came to set up for a counter. They came to set up to hit us on the break. They stepped off of us. And I almost feel like that we relinquished possession. I mean, we'll come to that. Let me talk to you about this. Is going to be a chaotic show, by the way. My head is all over the place. I thought I'd sleep on this game and feel calmer in the morning, but I don't feel calmer at all. The lineup was as expected. No surprises. This is the lineup I picked before the game. I was happy with the lineup. I have absolutely zero complaints about this team that we picked. Zero complaints about the team that we picked. I started Gyökeres in my team. I started the rest of the team. I haven't got any complaints about the team that started the game. I've got complaints about the performances of lots of the players that started this game and players that entered the game as well. It wasn't just about the players who started. It was also about the players who came in. But the first 30 minutes, I was encouraged. We were dominant. We were threatening. We were getting in behind. There were some really good moments with Trossard and Saka beating their respective fullbacks. Saka was buzzing around. Even at halftime, after we kind of had those last 10 to 15 minutes of losing the momentum a little bit, there were conversations going on in the press room about Saka buzzing. Saka was on it. Saka was kind of producing and was really causing problems down that right-hand side. But he faded completely in the second half, as did so many others. In fact, everybody faded after that 30th minute. And I don't know about you, but I got this sense that what we were doing when we had possession, because of the way Liverpool was setting up, just wasn't really working. We weren't creating the big opportunities. We weren't getting the players into the right positions. We were getting in behind, providing the cutbacks, getting the crosses in the box, but there wasn't anybody there. And we'll come on to you know who it shortly, but we were getting the balls into these dangerous positions, but there wasn't anybody there to finish off those chances, and that baffles me. There was a brilliant cross from Rice that wasn't attacked. That same for Madueke in the second half, produced a brilliant ball into the box. Nobody there. Saka and Trossard with two really good cutbacks. Nobody there. Or the execution of the pass wasn't quite on it. And I felt as though that after 30 minutes, when Liverpool started to get on the ball more, I wondered to myself whether or not this was on purpose, in the sense that let's allow Liverpool to attack us for a bit. Let's relinquish control for a bit and see if we can hit them on the counter. Let's see if we can have them overcommit. But when they don't have a centre forward and they're playing Wirtz in this kind of diamond and the tip of the spear, if you like, it's very difficult to then see your opposition when they are going without a centre forward to see the openings. And when we relinquished control, if that was the reason, and I'm speculating, we never got it back until like the last few minutes of the game. We didn't get our composure back. We didn't get control back. We absolutely relinquished control of this game and never got it back until the last few minutes of the match whatsoever. And that was surprising because we just couldn't keep possession for a long period of time. Liverpool could. You know, they are the champions. They have experience. They've won the league. They've got some very good players. There's no doubt about that. You know, I think sometimes Arsenal fans, us as a collective, we can be quite arrogant in that we just expect to beat every single team and be better than every single team and that the other team doesn't even factor into a performance. But Liverpool were a huge factor in this game and controlled the game. They controlled large periods of this game with composed passing, with dominant kind of possession, and we lacked that composure when on the ball. We lacked that composure on the ball. We couldn't find our way into kind of the triangles, the combinations that we've been so effective in doing. There was that moment where Raya and Saliba had that kind of chaotic thing, and that, I think, unsettled everything. You know, when Conor Bradley hit the bar and then Gakpo couldn't follow it up, it was almost like that moment when that happened just completely unsettled things. And it was like, oh goodness, look how close we were to conceding. We better not do that. I better not make this misplaced pass. And I'm overthinking my pass. And now it's happened. Timber, Declan Rice, and Zubimendi, I think, are the only players that I gave more than a 6 to. I think I gave them 7s. And David Raya, because actually I think David Raya, in the end, did quite well with the moment with Saliba. I think people were trying to point fingers at Raya, but I actually think that considering Saliba doesn't need to make that terrible decision from Saliba to kind of tap the ball back to him in that moment, and Raya has to react to it so quickly. I know it then leads to that chance, but actually I think he did quite well in that moment to react as quick as he did and not give up a ball in a more dangerous position than he was. And Gabriel, I gave Gabriel a 7. So Raya, Timber, Gabriel, Zubimendi, and Rice, I gave 7s to. Everyone else was below a 7, comfortably below a 7, absolutely beyond all doubt, comfortably below a 7. Because the rest, and look, this wasn't Rice's best game, but he still did things in this game that were important. This wasn't Zubimendi's best game, but there was some really good breaking up of play, some really good duels that he won that did turn over possession. Timber was probably our most dangerous player at certain points of the game. And I think that's as fair as I could be about the more positive sides of the display. So everybody else that I haven't mentioned there, from Raya, Gabriel, Rice, and Zubi. But by Rice's standards, it's way below what we expect, but still, it was above so many others. That's not in question. Outside of those 4 and the first 30 minutes for Saka, he was 7 in the first 30 minutes and then completely fell off. But Ødegaard was bad. Saka outside those first 30 was bad. Trossard was pretty poor. We'll talk about Gyökeres in a minute. Saliba didn't have the best of games. Hincapié didn't have the best of games. Lewis Skelly came on and had an absolute nightmare of a performance. I mean, I don't know what's happened to Miles. He's a young player. He had a lot of exposure last season, rode a wave of great form, has fallen out the 11. My word, do we miss Calafiori? We're not expecting him to be available at the weekend either, which is a real blow, but hopefully he'll be back soon. But yeah, it's just so gutting not having Calafiori there at the moment because I think we really do miss his influence in the game. But Miles Lewis Skelly, I mean, it's such a drop from last season in some of these performances that we're seeing. It's such a drop. Yes, he needs minutes. Sure, he needs game time. But I'm sorry, people, but that argument, the idea that, play Miles Lewis Skelly into form, no. We're challenging for a title. You can't just throw an 18, 19-year-old kid into the game because they need to build up form. It's so much. He was given so much. Like Tsunami, terrible comment. The idea that Arteta's killed Miles' performance, awful comment. Horrendous comment. Could not be more detached from reality. Arsenal are chasing a title. Calafiori has been one of our best players. And defensively, Miles has looked suspect when on the field this season. And so when Calafiori is not there, of course it makes sense for Nketiah to play. Of course it does. Arteta's also the guy that gave Lewis Skelly all of the confidence, despite having Zinchenko, despite having Tierney last season. So let's put the whole Arteta's destroying Miles' confidence argument in a box and never open it again, because quite frankly, that's an embarrassing argument. Because the reality is the reason he's here is because Arteta has given him the confidence, gave him the nod over Zinchenko, over Tierney last season. So there's no reason why Lewis Skelly should be playing more than he currently is, to be honest, right now. Based upon what we've seen this season, there's no reason why he should be playing quite more. So don't out yourself. Don't undermine your own arguments. It's just, for me, it's not a good comment. It's really not. Moving, let's talk about this Martinelli thing, and then I can talk about Gyökeres. So, Gabriel Martinelli, I think Arne Slot nails the point after the game. Absolutely nails the point after the game. For me, Gabriel Martinelli is not the type of person to push a player who he knows is injured. And Arne Slot after the game effectively turned around and said, look, we're in a position where we don't know Martinelli, but we're in a position where there is so much time wasting in a game that players that go down and fake injuries and waste time, that it gets on the nerves of managers, of fans, of players. And Martinelli genuinely didn't know what the injury that Bradley had suffered was. And not only that, but it was off the ball. Like, it was, Martinelli didn't touch him. So in terms of that duel, there's not been a duel. He's gone down, and it looks like, especially because you can see him crawling onto the pitch. Like, let's not pretend that Bradley doesn't edge his way back onto the pitch to make sure the game doesn't go on. That even though he is injured, there is an element of time wasting going on because he is trying to push himself back onto the pitch. So let's not pretend that doesn't happen, because it does. And Martinelli's just, it's a terrible thing he did. He rightfully apologized after the game, and it's just one of those things. It's just one of those moments. It's not red card worthy. It's a yellow card. Gary Neville's a disgrace, like absolutely disgraceful. I think Arne Slot, if anything, completely exposed Gary Neville's petulance in his commentary. I didn't hear the commentary during the game. I had to be exposed to it after the game. To suggest that he's surprised that a Liverpool player didn't whack him. I mean, grow up, mate. I mean, I hold the eye for an eye thing. I mean, it's just nuts. Some of the comments that he comes out with to say these days. I've never seen as much of a punditry fall off in my life as I have, sadly. Like Gary Neville, as I always say, I used to stick around after games to listen to his analysis because it was so good. But in recent seasons, it's just been such a fall off. But yeah, look, Martinelli has apologised, and that's more than the vast majority of footballers ever do for moments like that. When do we really ever see apologies for moments like this? We don't. We just don't really see them. So fair play. He got it absolutely wrong. Yellow card offence. It's not violent conduct. It's just petulance. And as I say, I think Arne Slot absolutely nailed it after the game. Absolutely nailed it. It's a nothing moment, really. Yes, he's injured, but he's well enough to try to start crawling his way back onto the pitch. Yeah. It's one of those. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't really think we need to discuss that anymore. It just is what it is. Martinelli, he's not that way inclined ever. That's not the type of player he is, and he rightfully apologised afterwards. It was a nothing moment, and I think anyone thinking more than that is just taking it too far, to be honest. Here we go. Right. Strap yourselves in. We're going to talk about Victor Gyökeres. And I genuinely hate this conversation. I hate this conversation. I shouldn't hate it. I shouldn't have to hate having this conversation, but I do hate it. So before I go into my thoughts on the Gyökeres thing, I'll tell you why I hate it. I hate it because I need to stop being so sensitive in the sense of worrying what people are going to think about what I think about this particular topic. I need to stop thinking about what people are going to think about what I think about this. And about this idea that if you have an opinion on somebody, you're going to get placed into a camp of either being Team Gyökeres or Team somebody else. Gyökeres was terrible, as were so many others, right? So many players were bad yesterday. But the problem with Gyökeres having this performance is that it's another bad performance. It's not just a one-off. It's another bad performance. And Jesus, when he came off the bench, was not good either. Jesus didn't have a particularly good performance at all. It wasn't as bad as this. He did more things, had a shot on target, created an opportunity, but was not as bad as this. But still wasn't good. But the reality is that he had 11 touches, Jesus, in 24 minutes, to Gyökeres, who had 8 touches in 64 minutes. And this season, can anybody name for me the game in which we created the most expected goals? Does anyone know what the game was that Arsenal created 3.63 expected goals, which is the most of any game Arsenal have created in any game this season? I mean, I'm talking more than the Leeds United game when we scored 5. In which game did Arsenal create the most? More than the Villa game in which we scored 4. So far, none of you have named it. More than the Spurs game in which we created 4 and scored 4. 3.63 XG in this game. Not Wolves. Not Atletico Madrid. At least I don't think so. The answer is Crystal Palace in the League Cup. Arsenal against Crystal Palace in the League Cup created 3.6. This got to XG philosophy. Created 3.63 XG. Do you know what's significant about that game in which Arsenal created the most XG of any of their games this season? More than the Club Brugge game when we won 3-0. Just scrolling down the feed now. More than the Brentford game that we won 2-0. Does anyone know the significance of that Crystal Palace game when we created the most XG of this season? Daniel's got it. Jesus started that game. It's not to do with Marino either, necessarily, because Marino has started games this season. And the sample size is small. I have to hold my hands up about that. Like, the sample size is small for this. So it's not, I don't think it's to do with Jesus. I think it's to do with the profile. It's to do with the profile of centre forward. It's not just about Gyökeres. I will just briefly say, those that still find themselves hammering home the he's not getting service argument, I'm sorry, but you are going to be screaming that into the ether forever. Arsenal could have the most creative players in the world to play 10 right wing and left wing. But unless you're making the runs and the movement and not standing by marking yourself, he marks himself out of games. He stands by the defenders. He doesn't make dynamic runs, doesn't run across the back 4. His touch is just not good enough at the moment. I don't want to have this conversation. I want him to be a success. I want to be sitting here saying, what a great performance. His all-round game was better. He's improving. We're getting more from him. But I'm sorry, like, this Arsenal system does not work with this style of centre forward. This system benefits most when we have a player that drops in, that links play. And there is a fool on me. There is a fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you element to this, because only for so long can you point the finger at Victor. At some point, you have to point the finger at Mikel. Because in my opinion, you can't keep persisting with Victor if this is happening. You can't keep pointing the finger and saying the same thing every week. And, I've really tried to look beyond the lack of goals. I've really tried to look beyond the lack of contributions, the poor movement, the lack of dynamic runs, the poor first touch, even the poor finishing at times. There's been a lot of opportunities that he hasn't taken as well that we have to talk about also. The Newcastle game, the Fulham game. I think that we have to mention these moments as well. It's not just about a lack of service, that some people just literally clinging by their fingertips while dangling off a cliff. That's the only thing that is left for them. The reality is that he hasn't been good enough in a season where we have desperately needed him to be good enough. And I said what I said a couple of weeks ago, a couple of games where I said Arsenal are doing what they're doing in spite of him, and that was harsh. Because he's clearly contributing somewhat. We saw that at Bournemouth with how he kind of takes players away and how he occupies defenders and distracts them. And he does do that. So saying what we've won games in spite of him is in retrospect too harsh. But it's not enough. I don't think it's controversial to say what we are getting so far is not enough. Can we agree on that? Even the biggest Victor Gyökeres fan who thinks that he's not getting the service, who thinks he's not getting the passes he needs, we're not playing to his strengths, can we at least agree that what we're getting at this point is not enough? At the very minimum, that should be the base level of agreement from whatever perspective that you are at with him. And as I say, I want him to succeed. I want him to do well, because if he does well, we do well. It's not about agendas. It's not about opinions in the summer. I sat there and said in the summer, nobody that we sign in the summer is going to be better than Havertz, in my opinion. I didn't see a centre-forward option, really, that I thought, yeah, they're definitely an upgrade on Havertz. We sat here and had those conversations in the summer, whether it was Šeško, whether it was Gyökeres, whoever. Ekitike was a different conversation, and let's be honest, nobody really was having the Ekitike conversation. So he was mentioned in passing, never really, and the money involved, it was always a risk on that side of things. And to be honest, he's had up and down moments for Liverpool as well. So I didn't see, and it's really easy with the benefit of hindsight as well, having seen him go there and do what he's done for Liverpool, to say, yeah, we should have signed him. But no one really that we were going to sign was going to be better than Havertz. But what frustrates me is now it's being taken out of Victor's hands, in my opinion. Like it's not a him issue as much anymore. I think I'm looking more at the manager at this point. I'm looking more at Mikel sticking with him. Jesus has been back, and in the one game that Jesus started, we created more expected goals than any other game this season in any competition, I think. The Atletico Madrid games now, I feel like I might have missed that one. Let me just see if I can find it. So, yeah, it's 2.53. So we created 2.53 against Atletico. So, yeah, still a whole one goal expected goals less despite scoring 4. So the game in which Jesus started, we create the most expected goals of any game we have had this season in any competition. And yes, that's a small sample. And yes, I think Jesus will start against Portsmouth, and that's an opportunity. Our next 4 matches, we have 1 league game. 1 league game. The next 4 matches are really, really important for the season because of the number of competitions that we're in. But also, I think the next 4 games where we have 1 league game can be used to finally start to shift the striker thing. Do you know what I mean? I think you can, against Portsmouth, start Jesus. Havertz, hopefully, sounds like it's going to be back, which is positive. A lot of people were asking questions saying, Why isn't Havertz in the squad against Liverpool? He was in the squad against Villa. The reason why I wasn't in the squad is nothing to do with an injury, other than the fact that he suffered one previously. Everyone on that bench is fully fit, match fit, ready. You don't drop one of those players that was on the bench for a 20, 30% Havertz. You don't do that. So that's why Havertz wasn't there. That's why Havertz wasn't against Bournemouth. And his load is obviously being managed as well. You don't drop any of those players for Havertz. So that's not a conversation. But the next 4 games, Portsmouth away, and they're all away, by the way. So you've got to kind of take the pressure off the home crowd as well away from this. Portsmouth away, Chelsea away, Forest away, Inter away. 4 games, 1 league match that we should win, no matter who we start centre forward away at Forest. They aren't particularly good right now and haven't been all season. This is 4 games where Jesus should be starting and we should be getting minutes into Havertz's legs as much as we can. But Gyökeres needs to take more of a back seat. Gyökeres needs to be taken out the spotlight for his benefit as well as ours. I don't think he's a player that you can just play into form. I don't think he's a player that you can just keep on playing and hope that it works. I think for his benefit, he needs to be taken out of the spotlight a bit as well. I think he needs to be given some respite. And as I said, it's not about Jesus. Like, Jesus came on and wasn't great. It's about what type of player is being picked in that position and what their contributions are in the game. That's what I am saying here. It's not about the individuals. It's about the profiles. That's the bigger thing for me, the bigger conversation. But yeah, look, as I said, I'm this week's been a bit of a learning curve because, as I say, I'm kind of drawing a line under the whole give a toss what people say about your own opinion sort of thing. So if what I've said has offended you, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about it at the moment. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Mikel Arteta after the game was unsurprising. I don't think there's anything really surprising about what Arteta said after the game. It was very along the lines of, we wanted to win it. We created some things in the first 30, but in the second half, we struggled to dominate. We were unnecessary in some of our passes, and how we kind of managed the game. Obviously, he did bring up that they didn't have a single shot, which I predict. I said before Arteta came in, I turned to Ed Aarons and was like, I guarantee you before he comes in, he'll mention that Liverpool didn't create anything. And lo and behold, he did. As he would, obviously, you would, 100%. You would, because it's an important stat. But it was just so obvious that was going to come up. He was asked about Victor Gyökeres. He says he was in great position sometimes. The ball didn't arrive. And as I said, there was a situation normally where we're going into the 6-yard box almost with the ball in the feet. And normally that's a goal and you pick somebody and you score a goal. And we didn't do that. And that's the thing today. We have to improve, apart from the thing that we did in the second half, that it wasn't probably the standards that we are used to. Look, I can't help at this point. He was also do you think Gyökeres will get better? And he just said yes. This is a politician's answer. Like this is he has to say this answer. That he's not going to turn around and say he didn't have a great game, because he's a player at the moment who's incredibly vulnerable. And if you're the manager of the team, you don't at this point. It's not like when he mentioned Eze missing the chance. It's not like when he mentioned Ethan Nwaneri losing out on a duel. Those players are in very different points of their Arsenal careers than Victor Gyökeres is. Victor Gyökeres is a player that needs constant reaffirmation, constant backing, constant support from his manager if he's going to succeed. So it doesn't surprise me that Arteta's saying these things. Do I necessarily believe that he is wholly happy and he wholly believes that he will get better? I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced. But I am getting to the point where I'm kind of not pointing the finger at Victor. I'm more pointing the finger at Arteta for not making that change quicker, for not changing the team. We'll see it against Portsmouth. But for me, that stat against Palace is so telling. Even in Jesus' first performance, when he came off the bench against Bruges, hit the bar, 2 shots on target. Like, the touches were significantly higher than Gyökeres. We need a higher touch player at centre forward. We're not Manchester City. Manchester City changed everything for Haaland. They changed the way they played. They had the versatility to be able to do that. I don't think we do, nor do I think we have a player of the ilk of Erling Haaland to be worth changing everything for. So you can't do that. But what you can do is give yourself the safety and security that you need while you indeed are surfing the internet. And that is by going to nordvpn.com/Gooner and getting yourself a significant discount off a 1 or 2 year plan. I can't even say this seriously right now. It's always harder to do these segues when we haven't won. But you can win in the internet world of safety and security by getting NordVPN. See, they're coming to me as I'm saying it, but I'm struggling. But you don't need to struggle ever again, especially if you're in a different territory that is supported by Nord and you want to change your geodigital location. Don't be let down like we were let down last night when you're abroad and you need to be secure and safe in what you're doing on the internet. Shield your data from snoopers and criminals. Make sure that you can change your geodigital location when you need to. Make sure you aren't let down like I felt let down last night. By going to nordvpn.com/Gooner and getting yourself a significant discount off a 1 or 2 year plan and get a 30-day money-back guarantee on top of that too. Let's mercifully go to part 2, some of your questions and points and more right after this. Okay, we're in parts 2 where we're gonna do it. We're gonna go into the chat box. I must be a glutton for punishment because we're gonna go into the chat box now and tackle some of your thoughts. I really tried to articulate as best as I could the feelings that I had going into how I feel about that game, how I feel about some performances, how I feel about some opinions about the performance. That's all I can do. It's never personal, so don't ever think that it is. Do drop a like, of course, as well. We do try and reach 1K every day on the channel, and I tell you what, after disappointing results, I get it. I really do. I get you. Liking a video is the last thing that you want to do, but if you can find it in your heart to overcome the sadness that we all felt and still feel in the wake of that result, to drop a like on the video to help us reach 1K every single day, that would be really appreciated. In the last 2 days, we've got well over 2,000 likes. I'm claiming that as a win. So, yeah, do drop a like on today's video. And I look to do that. Wilson says, please put a link to allow fans to have a say regarding the Liverpool game. I can't today, I'm afraid. I don't have the time to do a phone-in show, Wilson. I might have the time tomorrow, but I don't have the time today. So I'm sorry about that. I've only got like 20 minutes and I can't invite loads of people onto the show because I just don't have the time. I'm sorry. Gooner Legend says, Tom, do we cut our losses on Victor in the summer? Do you think? No. Look, I'm not having that conversation now. Now is not the conversation. You know, those of you saying that Victor needs to be sold, that Victor needs to be got rid of, I'm not where you are. I think you've taken it too far, in my opinion, because I still think he can contribute. I still think he can offer things. I just think he needs to be dropped. I just think he needs to be taken out the firing line. I think he needs to be given some respite. I think he needs to be given some protection. And I think that happens by dropping him. Those that are jumping to conclusions saying sell the guy now, that's too far. That's not where I'm at. I'm not making any sweeping judgments about the player at this point of the season. It's January in his first campaign for Arsenal. I've seen too many players have really slow first 6 months, first 8 months, first seasons to, really have like a conclusive, proper judgment on a player. That's not the conversation that we need to have. We don't need to have that conversation because we have other competent centre-forward options. It's not like we've signed a player for position and have no one else. We have Jesus and we're soon to have Kai Havertz, and we've also got Mikel Merino if we really want to go to that level of kind of change. So this is not the time. This is not the time for that conversation. I've seen too many players have slow first 6 to 8 months to make a sweeping judgment. But I want to bench him right now, yes. And they're not contradictory points. Saying that you don't want him sold doesn't mean that you want to see him taken out of the starting lineup right now. They are not the same thing. So don't conflate the two and think that they are. Boy says, Tom, do you think Kai Havertz will play some minutes at Portsmouth, and what would you do with Gyökeres moving forwards? I think Jesus should be fit enough to start games and let Gyökeres come off the bench. I do think that Kai will return against Portsmouth. I'm very hopeful of that. And I think I've kind of done my thoughts on Gyökeres in terms of moving forwards and what I would do. As I said, I would swap him out for Jesus in the short term. And in the long term, hopefully we can bed Havertz in and give Gyökeres some minutes off the bench in a less pressured scenario. T-Evolution says, I know people will call me negative, but I'm so down after last night. That was the opportunity to grab the title race and we blew it. Worries me ahead of April and May when it gets really nervy. If we'd have blown it, we would have lost. I wouldn't go as far as saying we blew it. I just think we dropped the ball on it a bit. We wasted the opportunity. We didn't blow it. Blowing it would be losing that game. Losing that game would be so damaging to Arsenal mentally that would be blowing it. So I'm where you are in terms of disappointment. I'm where you are in terms of the missed opportunity, but I'm not where you are in saying we blew it, because I think blowing it would be losing. Manny says, first few games, Gyökeres was making runs and in positions, and we're now desperate for him in need. We're now desperate in need for him to be in. Is it confidence? It could be confidence, but this isn't the level where you can have a confidence crisis. It just isn't. When you're top of the league and you're a team fighting for multiple competitions, confidence crises can't happen at this point. Mark says, spot on, Tom. I think Victor Gyökeres will come good, but the pressure needs to be taken off him. So I totally agree when you say Arteta needs to act and do the right thing. Great stream as always. Hit them likes. Thank you, Mark. Arthur says, Tom, I've been banging every week that we have to play through the middle. City, Liverpool, Chelsea and Villa all play through the middle. They do, but they're often stifled, mate. Like, it's not as simple as saying we need to go through the middle and stop using the wide areas. All of those teams use the wide areas. Also, all of those teams that you mentioned are currently below the team that aren't supposedly playing enough through the middle. So if they're all not at the top of the table and the team that is top of the table isn't playing enough in a certain area, maybe those other teams need to play more in the wide areas. Maybe that's their problem. It's really difficult to kind of be overcritical about the approach, how we play, what we're doing when you're top by 6 points, when you're top of the Champions League, having won every single game, when you're into the League Cup semi-final. So it's really hard to be like, we are categorically making a horrendous tactical error and our approach play is all wrong. It's really hard to have that conversation when you are where you are in the league. So I'm afraid, Arthur, I'm not aligned with you there. I'm not aligned with you there, because to be aligned with you there and saying we need to be doing what these teams are doing, I'd need to see those teams above us. That's kind of where I'm at. Pat says, Tom, respectfully, I can't see how you gave Rice and Zubi as Arsenal's best players on the night. Our midfield was shockingly poor. I know that you love Rice and Zubi, but we got totally overrun in midfield. Our midfield was quite open. I think that was actually more down to Odegaard. Actually, Odegaard was quite poor. But I still, and look, it wasn't the best game from Rice and Zubi. I said that earlier. But they were still better than everybody else other than Gabriel, Raya and Timber. So Gabriel, Raya, Timber, Rice, Zubi, all sevens. I don't think there was anyone particularly better than any of them. They were all kind of okay. It's the context. It's the context of the game. When you say Arsenal's best players, it's like there was 5 players who were collectively not as bad as everybody else. So it depends how you say it. Like saying they were Arsenal's best players, I didn't say that. I say there were 2 of the 5 best players, but that still didn't mean they were particularly great in the game. Did Mikel get booked? I don't think so. I thought one of the Liverpool coaching staff got booked. Signature says, can I just say hardly any of the high-profile expensive forward signings beyond Ekatike have hit the ground running. Also, full credit to Arne Slot on the comments about Martinelli as well. Michael says we will still win the league. I agree with you. Yeah, I think we will win the league. But, yeah, we might have won it sooner if we'd have won last night. Lachlan says, hey, Tom, since Arteta come in, we have not had a golden boot challenger. Is this his style of play? Even Aubameyang died off when Arteta came. So Aubameyang was already heading in that direction, but I don't think the Aubameyang thing is one to focus on too much. I think Arteta's system is more about spreading the goals, right? That has always been about what Arteta's system and style and philosophy is, that goals are shared. Every player is a threat from the right to the left to the middle to the 10 to the midfielders, like the defenders. The goals are spread in this Arsenal system. Arsenal will probably have this season the lowest top scorer ever for a Premier League winner. The lowest currently is 13. We're more than halfway through the season. Our top scorer in the league has 5. 2 of those are penalties. So the reality is that, yeah, we're probably going to have the lowest ever if we do win the league, which I sincerely think that we will. And I'm confident that we will. I think we'll probably have the lowest ever Premier League top scorer for a Premier League winner. I really do. Danny says, "What do you think of Ez's performance?" Again, not good. Didn't improve things. I liked some of what Noni did. You know, Noni created that chance. He was lively. He added a bit more energy, and it's no surprise that, you know, towards the end of the game we started to kind of be a little bit more threatening. But yeah, a lot of you are saying Arteta did get booked. I missed that, so I didn't see that. What was that for? Was it for the Martinelli moment? Oh, for leaving his technical area. I mean, you know, if a manager got booked for leaving their technical area, there'd be no managers left. They'd all be sent off. Yeah, it's pedantic. Space Monkey says, "Hey Tom, as someone who was in the stadium, how heavy was the conditions were terrible, but I don't talk about conditions because it's the same for both teams. I don't talk about conditions." Vlad says, "Could it be that Mikel wanted to give the ball away the second half to preserve the player fitness and thinking about a draw is good enough?" No, he wanted to win the game. We just weren't efficient. There were too many misplaced passes. There were too many poor decisions. We lacked composure. We looked nervous. Like that's not by design. That's, for me, we just didn't play well. We just didn't play well in that second half. D says, "Good to see Saka going on the outside a lot more since Noni arrived. It's clear to see that they are learning well from each other. We are just 6 months in with the team having 7 new players, 8 new players, and Dowman as well. So you can make it 9 if you like, come into the side this season. And we're 6 points clear, of course." AFC Teledai says, "Do you not think the availability of the other strikers is a factor? Gyökeres has played so many more minutes than I think anyone would have thought." He's been dealt a bad hand. There's no doubt about that. You know, Gyökeres has been dealt a very bad hand coming into Arsenal and having no respite much at all from any options behind him. He's only recently had Jesus come back into the side. And if we're being honest, it's had the negative effect. Like, you think about it, when Gyökeres had that game at Burnley and we thought we were starting to see more from him and he was starting to get better and he probably had the best 45 minutes of football he's had in an Arsenal shirt, there was still no one else really pushing him. Like, Mikel Merino was there, but he's not a centre forward to push you. So Jesus has come back. Havertz is looking like he's going to be back soon, and arguably this period of games has been the worst we've seen of Victor. So yeah, I don't necessarily think that's helping. Gooner Legend says, "I'd love to see how we play if Arteta just sits his arse on the bench and stops jumping around like a man or match." Well, you can if you want to. You can go and watch how we played against Aston Villa when we lost and Arteta was in the stands. So if you want an example of what we're like when Arteta isn't on the touchline and isn't there, we lost. So I hope that answers your question. Izzy says, "Tom, Liverpool with no strikers overloaded our midfield. It took its toll eventually. It was hard for Rice and Zubi, and how we cannot see this. Jesus would have helped by dropping off, similar to Wirtz." You're so spot on, Izzy. It's because Liverpool didn't play with a centre forward. Wirtz was playing as an extra midfielder. So naturally, the middle. This is why I disagree with Arthur earlier. The idea of playing through the middle when Liverpool are packing out the midfield and they don't have an out and out centre forward playing, and they're playing off of the wide areas with Gakpo and Frimpong hitting on the counter constantly. The idea of playing through the middle is so difficult to do. Is near impossible to do because you're not playing against a side that are playing with a striker. So they're stepping off the centre halves. There's an extra man in midfield. There's less space there. So the idea of being able to play through that. Look, a team like Liverpool, what worries me is that will become a template for other teams who now play Arsenal. That's my concern, is that we will see other teams pack out the midfield and will struggle. The difference is those teams are not as good as Liverpool. Those teams don't have players as good as Liverpool do. So hopefully we can deal with it. But there is something to be said about if you pack out the midfield against Arsenal, as we saw Liverpool do last night, and have as good composure as they have had as well, then there will be points to be got against Arsenal. Daniel says, "Can't really judge Noni and Eze as they didn't have enough time." Yeah, that's why I've not really spent much time on them. But, you know, Eze didn't do much when he came off the bench, and Noni was more encouraging than he was. The cameo against Villa was dreadful, you know, from Noni, but this was a much better cameo from him from the bench. Daniel says, "If Nkapie is injured, what do you think of a White, Saliba, Gabby, Timber back four?" It wouldn't surprise me if we do that, because Lewis Skelly is having a nightmare at the moment. Really is having a bit of a nightmare. Claire, what is actually wrong with Calafiori? I thought he had apparently it's a calf injury. That's what we're thinking, is that it's a calf injury at the moment. Team Evolution says, Tom, do you still consider Villa a threat? Well, of course, they're only 6 points behind. I think they will fall away, and the XG numbers don't tend to lie. They do tend to catch up with you as they did when they came to the Emirates. But yeah, you have to right now. You can't rule them out when they're only 6 points behind you. Dave says, to be honest, it's the standard filthy low block which most teams deploy against us as well. That's again another reason as to why we can't say let's just go through the middle, because those low blocks, those mid blocks really do pack out midfields and stop us from doing that. Daniel says, can I just get some thoughts on why you think Miles Lewis struggled? I think it's because he's young. I think it's because he's not playing consistently, and it's hard to build up momentum. That's not to say that he should then play more, because we've got better players than him ahead of him. So that's just the reality at the moment. No, he needs more time. He probably needs to get some exposure in the youth team and get some more minutes there and get some more regularity in his game. But that really is, it's as simple as that. It's nothing chronic. It's nothing too concerning. There's just better players ahead of him, and for a player of his age, you need to play consistently to build up that momentum, that confidence, that form. You haven't got the experience to be missing for ages, come back in and do well. Like, look at Martin Odegaard, for example. Been missing for however many weeks, and he's back and he's in the best form that we've seen in the last 18 months. So it's not like that. Some players, especially younger players, aren't coming back from injury and just hitting the ground running like that. You know, even Jesus, to a lesser extent, you know, has impressed in moments when he's come back from injury, despite being out for a whole year with a horrendous injury. So again, it's something to think about. Ethan says, what did you think of Slot's post-match comments? Read the performance. I thought it was the most honest take. Look, I have a lot of time for Arne Slot as kind of like his pressers. I still think that, you know, coaching-wise, there are question marks about him, but he's always very honest at a press conference. He's refreshingly honest, and just kind of says it how it is. And he said, you know, he doesn't really understand how anyone can be impressed with Liverpool's performance. They didn't create a single shot on target. How could anyone be impressed by that? Liverpool played well in terms of stifling Arsenal and controlling the ball, but they didn't create anything. Arsenal did well to stop them from doing that, of course, other than the Bradley chance. But yeah, look, Liverpool did a job on Arsenal, but they didn't threaten Arsenal in any way. Liverpool, if you're a Liverpool fan, you shouldn't be happy with that performance. You know, even without key players, to create 0 shots on target in a game where Arsenal probably played the worst they've played all season, gave up possession more than they ever have in recent times that I can remember. Sorry, but I wouldn't be happy with that performance. That was an opportunity missed for Liverpool. People say it's a good point because you're going away to the potential champions, but no, not for me. Abe says, we didn't play quick enough. Liverpool built up quickly and opened us up a few times, and we needed to do that, but always seemed to enjoy slowing play down. We didn't go for it enough for me. Iron says, one can go through a low block, but then we need players who can be one-touch play with triangles and good dribblers in the midfield. Yeah, Iniesta, Xavi, Messi used to face low blocks, but the dribbling overcame that. And yeah, and that's why, again, I think we need another kind of, you know, you think about who was leading the line for that Barcelona team. It wasn't out and out number 9. You know, that's why Ibrahimovic came along and left pretty soon after, because it just didn't work. It didn't fit that system. But play a Messi type player there. You know, it's Messi, but, you know, play a player that drops in, takes the ball to feet, turns, spins, plays in others, links up play. That's what Arsenal are about. And that's why Victor Gyökeres is the wrong player at the moment for us. Lee says, Tom, we are still in a transfer window. Is there anyone worldwide up front that catches your eye? We don't need to buy a centre forward. There isn't a centre forward that I'm buying in this window. I'm not buying one in the summer. You know, we have the options. I'm confident in the options that we have, that we can win the league with these players. I've been confident we could have won the league 2 seasons ago when we nearly did. We only finished 2 points behind City. You know, some of those results against Fulham and West Ham and City and Villa, win one of those games and you're title winners with Havertz as your number 1 centre forward against a better Man City team than the Man City team that we have right now. That team that had Havertz up front for the majority of the season and won basically every single game in the second half of the campaign other than Villa and City, ended on more goals than the Invincibles, won more games than the Invincibles, had Havertz up front. It's not rocket science. Clearly, Arsenal are good enough to win a title with Kai Havertz as their centre forward. But I fear if Arsenal don't win the league this season, I think it will be because Arteta persisted too much with certain things. One of those things being Victor. in the centre-forward position when he probably should have dropped him. So that's why I would drop him, because I think he needs, not because he's terrible, not because he's not good enough, because at the moment he's not doing very well and we just need to take him out of the firing line. And we aren't stylistically working with him right now. You know? That's where I'm at. That's where our perspective is. We're so exposed to recency bias. You know, we're so exposed to just looking at the last few weeks or months. We don't look at the broader context. We forget what happened in previous seasons. You know, and I think that point about 23-24, you know, I had fans turning around to me earlier in the season saying, why are you comparing us to last season? Compare us to 23-24 when we were the best version ourselves. Okay. We've got more points at this point of the season than we had at that time in 23-24. So if you want to compare with either last season or the season before that, we have more points this time around than we had at those points of those seasons. So, and I think we can be better. And I'm not happy with everything. You know, I think we can be even better than we are. And we've been missing so many players. You know, to be 6 points clear of City and Villa and 14 clear of Liverpool, and have had the injuries that we have had this season. Again, madness. I said last season was one of Mikel Arteta's greatest achievements, getting to second place into a Champions League semi-final, considering he lost 27 different separate injuries during the campaign. The fact that we're 6 points clear now, having gone to all of the places we've ticked off Villa twice, we've ticked off Liverpool twice, we've gone to Villa Park and Anfield, therefore, we've gone to Old Trafford, we've gone to Chelsea, we've gone to the Stadium of Light, we've gone to St James's Park, we're 6 points clear, and we've had the worst injury record of any team in the league this season. When you put all that context together, how we're speaking can only be contextualized to the last 24 hours. If I take a step back, and I think about how I'm feeling about the season, I'm not feeling that way. I'm not feeling how I feel right now overall. So don't take this show as an example of how I feel about Arsenal this season. How I'm speaking in this show is about how I feel about Arsenal in the last 24 hours. That's it. And you have to separate the two. And I think the difference is, if you see, and the reason why you can kind of see the differences in opinion between people is that how people speak now about this game is how they've spoken about all the games this season, or how they've spoken about Arsenal for the last 3 years. There's a difference. The last 24 hours for me have been one of the worst 24 hours from an Arsenal output performance perspective. But when you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture of the season, we're in a great place. We're in a great, great, great place. So, Portsmouth is next. Arteta's press conference for that Portsmouth game was done after the game yesterday. Those quotes you will hear come out tomorrow. So there'll be no press conference today. So just heads up, there's no presser stuff coming today for you. So you'll have to wait for that tomorrow. It's embargoed. I can't talk about it. But we'll talk about that press conference on Sunday morning. We'll talk about more to do with football tomorrow. And I might invite people to come on the show tomorrow, give their thoughts, give their feelings. So if you're up for that sort of thing, then tune in at this time tomorrow and we'll be there. Thank you for listening. I know I've been ranting and raving and not in the best of moods about the game, but I think most of you probably are in a similar place to me. But again, I think we ended the show in the right way, again, with the context of where Arsenal are right now and what Arsenal are right now. So just think about that. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. Look after your mental health. If you need to take a break, always after a difficult result, I say this because I know it can affect people greatly. Take a break. Enjoy your Friday evening. I'm going to. Got a nice evening with some friends planned. I'm going to forget about football for a night and think of, things are way more important than football. It's just a game, people. I know some people don't like being told that. It's just a game. It's just an interest. It's just something that's part of our lives. There are way more important things than football in this world. Don't let it get to you so greatly. Focus on the things that are important. And happy birthday to Dee, who says they'll enjoy their birthday today. So there you go. Enjoy your birthday. Have a great day. Top of the league, 6 points clear. Beautiful scenes. As always, up the Arsenal.